Hello, hello! It's Tuesday, best day of the week, and it's also the 25th pep talk that I have recorded and now uploaded at this point. And I'm excited about that. I started these when I started my job about 4 months ago, and I've kind of come a long way with these, developing them, and hopefully we'll continue to. Although it was pretty technical at the start, and it's got the topics have become a bit more lax, or more practical, or more life skill oriented, or they've changed in some ways. But I do still have technical knowledge I would like to pour out, and I'm trying to mix it up a bit, not to bore you. But today, I do have to stop for gas, so I might pause in the middle of this video while recording it, but this podcast, it's a video if you're watching on YouTube. But today, I wanted to do something special, and I wanted to talk about something I am intensely familiar with, something I am a subject matter expert on, something that is practical, but also semi-technical and affects every one of us. And by the title, since you clicked into the video, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm talking about dreams and why they matter. So, where to start? Well, dreams matter. I knew it would start raining. Sorry, I just pulled out of the parking garage. It's really warm today, and it's in February, and I could tell that it was going to start raining, and it just started raining. So, it's part of the weather. But yeah, dreams and why they matter. So, why do they matter? What are dreams? What is a dream? Do you have a dream? Are we talking about dreams when you sleep? Are we talking about life goal dreams? Well, I'd say both. Both matter, so we can talk about both. But I am an expert in dreams in the sleeping kind, is what I was referencing, mainly. And I can explain that a bit. So, for starters, I've been keeping a dream journal since 2013, so about 10 years, since May of 2013. No, sorry, before then. May of 2013 is when I compiled and uploaded all my entries that I had at that point. So it's closer probably to 12 years, 11 or 12 years. But I've kept a dream journal for a very long time. And I used to use it a lot more than I do now, but I still occasionally put in entries. And so far, there are over 420 entries in my dream journal of fully typed up, written up. I have a dream, I woke up, here's what it is, here's exactly what I remember, in as much or as little detail as I remember as possible. And so I have a good recollection of my dreams, and dreams matter to me. And let me tell you why they matter in general. So dreams are... what started me recording these is my grandmother was starting to experience dementia. And I realized that I knew it ran in the family. And I realized that I didn't want to forget things. So I started writing stuff down. Like, in the future one day when I'm old. But then I realized that dreams we forget every day. That's the gas indicator. I need to get gas, like I said. Dreams we forget every day. Like, you dream pretty much every day that you sleep, but you never remember them. Or if you do, it's only for like a minute when you wake up, typically. And there's ways around that to prolong the memory of a dream, because ultimately a dream is a life experience. It is something you are experiencing. It is something that is happening and has happened to you, and it's a memory like anything else. Why forget it? It's not like you're going out drinking with your friends and you get drunk and you can't remember, but that's kind of what it's like. So why not try and know what your dreams are and remember them, write them down, because that's one of the ways to remember. But anyway, they're important. Dreams are important for many reasons. Some people say they're prophetic, others think they're entertaining, others think they're terrifying, because that's all they get, is terrifying dreams, which is sad. But I've definitely been there. So I want to talk about dreams, why I record them, but also the dream I had last night. And it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I can still remember the dream I had last night in vivid detail. And I want to explain how and why. But I'm turning into the gas station now, so this would be a good pausing point for me, I think. And then I will start explaining that in a second. Oh, that one is out of service. That one's also out of service. Let's see. This is the beauty of recording these while I drive, is trying to figure out. That one's out of service too. Okay. What to do here? Let me, I gotta do a quick, U-turn. Normally I would have paused this by now, but I can have some fun with this one. Alright. Here we go. Hopefully I can pull in. Alright. And pause. And resume. And we're back. Cool. I also, I just noticed, I refer to myself in the third person a lot. Or not in the third person, in the single first person plural. Like I say we, or I say us a lot. And when I'm saying that, I'm actually referring to myself in the plural using the royal we and the royal us. It's a I don't know why I'm getting into this, but I do this all the time, so that's how I'm explaining it. It's a way of talking that was more popular in older English, but it's whenever you are referring to, not just, like a set of things, but you're talking about yourself, or you're, referring to a nation, like a figurehead of a nation would use the royal we when talking about themselves. Like the Queen would talk about themselves that way. And I think of myself, because of my ADHD, I have a plurality of thoughts. And I subdivide my person into 4 distinct categories. So in my mind, I am one person, but I'm very much so subdivided. So I often use the royal we when referring to myself. Yeah, this is what happens when you go pump gas. You huff some fumes and you get caught off track. Anyway, back to dreams. So, record dreams, part of your memory, part of your life. You want to remember them. Why forget them when you don't have to? That's kind of my philosophy. Why they're important, they impact your day-to-day life. You ever wake up sad, but you don't know why? It's probably because you had a dream that was sad, and you didn't remember it, so you're letting it control you without knowing what it is. This morning, last night, I had a very tragic, sad, morbid, and stressful dream, but because I remember them, I was able to recognize that and control it. And I'll get into that in a bit. And that's story time, so I'll get into that in a bit. But dreams are part of your life. And there's also, yes, the dreams, long-term goals. We all have our dream jobs, or our dream homes, our dream wives, and our, dream whatever, dream PC builds if you're a nerd, or your dream car. We often refer to those as dreams, too, because it's extra real. It's more than what reality can usually bear. Like my dream job, it's highly unrealistic, but it's to be a person who is in orbit, in space, and is also of the profession of being a pastor. I want to be a space pastor. I think it would be the most awesome thing to start the First Baptist Church of Space. Highly unrealistic goal, but I have a education, and I'm many, many, many years of faith, and I'm growing in my understanding of how to teach. And also, I study aerospace engineering, and I know a thing or two about space. So it's one of those super unrealistic dream goals and dream jobs, but I have the prerequisites that are leading me towards that, if that ever were to become a thing. Put it that way. So that's a dream, Okay, going east towards Essex. But yeah, okay. So getting into dreams, I'm going to tell you the dream I had last night. And if any of this sounds super distressing to you, it's because it is. It was very distressing to me at first. So here we go. So in the dream, it was pretty mid-sized dream, mid-length dream. It started out with I was dropped into a game show type competition, except the game show was more akin to like Hunger Games, where you had to survive. And it happened to be a zombie apocalypse type scenario, so I had to survive zombies. And it was me and I think 30 other contestants and a horde of zombies in this like really dingy, dark sewer complex with there was different traps and maze components to it and parkour and open rooms. It looked like I don't know, it maybe like the inside of like in an old industrial warehouse that went to shreds and flooded a couple times. Like that's kind of the vibes. It was dark and dim and basically terrifying. And I had to run around for my life and survive any way I could and use weapons to, chop zombies' heads off and, stab them where it matters. And that kind of stuff. And it's zombies, so it's like you don't have moral qualms with killing zombies. But because there were 30 of us who are contestants competing in this, when we got to the final room, they like really opened the floodgates on how many zombies were let in, and a bunch of us got caught. And at this point, we had scavenged for weapons, and some of us had machine guns. But some of the people who had the weapons got turned into zombies. So people, and by people I mean I can think of, like I can see their faces in my head. I can picture the two guys who, one like ran interference and basically ran through the horde in order to attract their attention, and he ended up getting taken down, and the other guy was trying to do the same thing and pick up a weapon, and he did, and he mowed down a ton of zombies until his clip ran out, and then he got overwhelmed and died. And meanwhile, I'm standing on top of a pile of pipes that had been suspended, kind of like an old oil fixture in the warehouse. And up there was my brother, was with me, brother David, and a few other people, but not many. And it got to the point where like we needed to get to the weapons, and so I caused a distraction, quickly like jump down, grab it, jump back up, and then go ham with the gun. But at some point, my brother got bit on like the ankle and was getting turned into a zombie. And it's slow. He got sick. I was able to I forgot what I did to stop it or slow it down. Maybe I cut something off. I can't remember. I know I had a Bowie knife, and I know I did cut someone's face in half. That was very gruesome. And by someone, I mean a zombie. But my brother got bit, and at this point, because he got bit, he was functionally dead for the terms of the competition, and I was the winner. I was the survivor out of the 30 of us. So the competition ends, and I'm immediately back in my parents' house, and my brother is still bit. He's still a dead man, functionally, and slowly turning into a zombie. He's getting sicker and sicker. And I remember I was in the garage talking with my dad. I don't know where my mom was, but I was talking with my dad about it, and it was kind of morbid. And my brother just wanted to do what he always does. He wanted to be in his room and play Twitch or watch Twitch streams and relax. And I'm like, he's on his deathbed. He has less than 2 hours to live. Like, he is not doing that right now. So I'm talking to my dad. And my dad is yelling at my brother, like, your brother has one dying wish for you, and that's that you come talk to us and you come spend your last moments with us. So I ended up, I think I sat out like 3 lawn chairs in our backyard for David and my dad and I to sit down and talk and spend his last moments together before he died. But at some point, it's kind of weird. At some point, I don't know how this happened. This is where dreams come in. I transferred his consciousness to it's gonna sound strange, but those containers that you store food in microwave? I don't know how, but it was like a person made out of those, full of food, and I transferred his consciousness to that, and he could move and he could talk, and it was him. It was just his actual figure looked like containers of spaghetti and other like pancakes and stuff. Again, it's a dream. But he was still dying, even in that form. And then somehow it did transfer him back to his actual body. And my brother died in the dream. And it was really sad. And because I knew he was going to turn into a zombie, I had my dad hold him down, like at the moment of death. And I was trying to time it in such a way where I had the big Bowie knife in my hand. I was trying to time it in such a way that I killed him the moment he died. Like I severed his, at this point, spine, but I was also going for his head. The moment he died, so that it wasn't me killing him. He died, and I stopped him from rising as a zombie. So my dad's holding him down now, and this is a dream. This is stressful. I'm like about to stab my brother. Because I don't want him to turn into an undead and wreck the rest of my family, or start a zombie apocalypse. And so I do. Like, I have graphic imagery of me taking a knife and stabbing the head of my brother's corpse. And that's traumatic, and that's morbid, and that's serious, and that's like, that would ruin anyone's day. Well, there's more to this dream. It gets worse. This is only a mid-length dream. So that scene ends, and then somewhere in there, I believe the stock market starts to crash, and lithium prices, specifically lithium, the metal, goes up by 100-fold. Like, lithium increased 100-fold in price in like one day or something. And because of that, the world starts going at war. And I think actually the U.S. declares war on China in this dream, because China is the main exporter of lithium, and we're trying to go take its lithium mines to maintain our way of life. But anyway, like, global war starts, which is really awful. And then also a very specific stock I have. I have a single share of stock in Falcon CrowdStrike, I think it's Falcon CrowdStrike or something. It's a cyber security company. But the stock, I remember, in the dream, plummeted from it's currently at like 330 something right now, 320 in real life, and it plummeted down to like $86. But I remember that my share actually went through. I was like stressing out, like, oh no, I just lost a bunch of money. But I set limit buy or limit sell orders, and the stock, before it dropped, spiked all the way up to 384, I think, or 386, and I sold it 384. So I sold right at the spike, so I actually didn't lose money. I gained a ton of money. And by a ton, I mean like $50. But I didn't lose a bunch of money, and so that was a bit of a relief. But that's like where the dream kind of ended, was me looking at the stock ticker and basically looking at the news and seeing that lithium's gone up and we're now at war with the entire world. And then I woke up. So yeah, that was my dream last night. Now you might be thinking to yourself, oh my gosh, that is awful, I wouldn't want to remember that. And you'd be right. But I knew that I would be talking about dreams on this podcast, this pep talk, so I wanted to remember whatever dream I had, and that was the dream I had. And I want to say this to say it's very real that not every dream you have will be good. There'll be awful things like this that you can't really, like, you can forget it. Like, I'm not writing this one down, although technically my recording app transcribes my voice to text for me, so I do have a written record of this. And I'm talking about recording it, so I don't want to write this down, but I'm going to remember this. It's probably what's going to end up happening. And I say this to say that I don't regret the dream happening, but I also recognize that not every dream is good. So if you struggle with bad dreams, I'm sorry. Like, it's tragic. I also wanted to point out, use this as an example, to say that I normally lucid dream. Like 90% of the time I lucid dream. And what lucid dreaming is being cognizant that you are in a dream. In the dream, you are aware you're in a dream, and you have some semblance of control. And although in nightmares, you typically don't lucid dream. Or if you do lucid dream in nightmares, you're usually in a mindset of, I can't get out of the lucid dream, and I'm stuck in this nightmare, which has happened before for me. It's even more traumatic than a normal nightmare. Because at least it's things happening to me. In a lucid nightmare, you can't get out, and you're cognizant you're dreaming, and you know you're in your own mental head prison. And it's worse. Trust me, it's worse. But yeah, I normally lucid dream. Last night's dream, I wasn't lucid until the stock market stuff. I wasn't lucid until the lithium stuff. The rest of that dream was natural and non-lucid. But once it hit that point, I was, because dreams are usually subdivided too. For example, you dream when you have REM sleep, and you REM sleep in your 90-minute sleep cycles. You REM sleep for usually between like 10 and 25 minutes per cycle, depending on how good it is. And you dream in that REM sleep cycle. But if you're clever enough, or you figure out how to do it, and if you're lucid dreaming especially, you can control it, you can actually bridge a dream across sleep cycles so that it takes up more REM sleep. So if you have a dream and you like the dream, and you're lucid dreaming, then on the next cycle, when the dream starts up again and you're lucid again, you can kind of bring the dreamscape back to whatever the previous dream was and just pick up the story where it left off, or start a new chapter of said story, because usually things are different, a little bit different. But when you wake up in the morning, you'll remember it all as one continuous dream instead of like 3 different dreams. So that's kind of an example of last night's. The lithium crash and the killing my brother because of zombie apocalypse are 2 very distinct, different dreams. But I remember them as one singular combined dream because I started lucid dreaming and appended it onto the end. It's kind of how my mind works. So that's what I did. And I want to teach you a little bit how you can lucid dream. So a lot of people wish they could lucid dream. A lot of people don't care. If you don't care, sorry. But if you do care, lucid dreaming is awesome. Lucid dreaming is being able to control your circumstances, your surroundings, what you do as a person. There's different degrees of lucidity, but you get some semblance of control in your dreams, which means that you can shape your dreams to whatever fantasy you want. Often. In this case, or in most cases, you can't lucid dream naturally, or if you do, the probability of you lucid dreaming naturally is very small and slim. Maybe you do it once by accident. But you can train yourself to lucid dream. And how you do that is you become aware of your dreaming. But not, what I mean by that is, you're not, how to put it. So, I learned by writing down my dreams. That's how I was able to do it. I would tell my dreams to people, I'd write them down, I'd keep a record, and I would try everything in my power to remember my dreams. Because you often forget. The reason you forget is dreams aren't stored to long-term memory. They're more like, I don't want to say they're neurons firing, that's what they are, but they're fragments of memory that haven't been processed. They're kept in the short term, and your short term kind of resets when you wake up for the day. So it's put in the short term buffer on the reset, and you forget it. What writing down your dreams does is it forces that short term into a long term memory. And by doing so, I could be cheesy and say you create neural pathways, but you do. But by doing that, you train your brain to convert short-term memory in that state while you're sleeping into long-term memory, which is important for lucid dreaming, because lucid dreaming requires a semblance of, how to put this, self, a semblance of reality, a semblance of control, a semblance of like what you're doing actually is persistent and matters. When you're in a dream, a normal dream, you're just caught in the experience. You have no say. You're just going for the ride. When you have in real life, when you think of something that's happened in the past that you remember, you can remember typically your feelings at the time. You can remember your decisions you made. You can remember what happened to you. Maybe you remember a smell. Like, you can remember aspects of the past besides, oh, this just happened to me. You can remember there's more data, there's more to a memory in the real world than there is in a dream. Well, the same can be done for dreams via lucid dreaming and via converting the short-term memory into long-term memory. I'm stuck in traffic, so this is going to, even though I'm just driving home, this is going to be a little bit longer, which is good, because there's plenty to talk about. I'm passionate about this subject. Maybe I'll tell another dream at the end, if I have time. Anyway. So, it's, how I do it, like I said, is I write down my dreams. And that's, what you're doing when you're doing that, is you take that short-term memory when you first wake up. Because if you start making other short-term memories, it's going to dump the short-term memory you developed while sleeping. That's just what I've found happens. If I start thinking about anything else when I wake up, it's going to dump my dream, and I'm not going to be able to remember it, or at least not clearly. You have to focus in on it when you wake up. So, if you don't want to write it down and you're being lazy, the easiest way to do that is, as soon as you wake up, just walk through the dream again in your conscious state, and tell yourself what happened. Like, retell the dream as if you were telling it to someone as a story. Tell yourself the story. And what that does is it takes this short-term memory and associates it with real-life memory, real waking conscious life memory. And because you're just probably laying in bed talking, your mind is going to think of the imagery as you tell these stories, assuming you don't have mental aphasia? Yeah, mental aphasia. Is this aphasia? I don't know, one of my friends has it. He's listening to this podcast, I guarantee it. He can tell me what it is exactly. I'm pretty sure it's aphasia, which is a condition where you can't picture things or remember or picture certain smells or scenarios, or your brain doesn't work that way. It's not necessarily a bad thing, it's different. But so he's actually going to probably struggle with this if he's trying to do this. Yeah, no, basically you talk through your dream and you turn it into a waking memory instead of a memory that gets dumped when you wake up. That's step one. Step two, a little bit more permanent than talking, because we don't remember most of what we say or hear, but we remember what we write down. And there's enough studies on that, I probably don't need to go into why. But yes, if you, instead of telling yourself vocally the dream, or in your head, if you write it down, you are committing that to long-term memory. Plus, you're committing it to whatever format you write things in. Like, it's a record that you can refer back to. It's a memory, in that respect. Oh man, there is a crash or something up ahead, and it is slowing things down. Excuse me. But yeah, I have good vision, but I cannot read that sign 3/4 of a mile in the distance in front of me. Maybe it's half a mile. Half a mile. Either way. Looks like there's an I-95 crash. Let's slow down 695. But yeah, so dreams. Yeah, write them down. You'll remember. You'll start lucid dreaming over time. Now, I don't know anyone who's actually done this successfully besides myself, because people usually quit after like 3 dreams. They're like, this is a hassle. So if this does work for you, please let me know. Comment on this or a future pep talk, and let me know if this actually works for you and you can now lucid dream, because I'm curious. I'm curious to see if it works for other people, because this is my experience I'm speaking out of. There's not many people with similar experiences. I don't know anyone else who keeps a dream journal. In the several hundreds and probably thousands of people I know, it's not a typical thing. But it is fun though, when you're out hanging with friends, or you're at parties, or you're talking with family, and you just have this book. In my case, it's not a book. It's a I type up my dreams. I used to have an app for it, but I realized that my app on my old iPod was gonna go away. So I started emailing all my dreams to myself. So now what I do is I open up an email, I address it to myself, and I start typing it up. Because if Google goes down and their email servers go down, then we have bigger problems than me losing a dream journal. That is probably the most permanent place you can store text media in the world, is on a Google server. Simply because if it goes down or loses data, then you have other issues. And I'm not talking about like getting hacked. I'm like, you can throw something on a flash drive and shove it in a drawer, but that's, if it gets destroyed, then it's lost. You throw it on the computer. If the computer gets wet, it's lost. You can put it on the cloud, and that's fine, but if you stop paying cloud fees, then it's lost. Well, Google gives you 15 gigs free. And so I've been recording these for the last 10 years via email. I do the same thing for sermon notes and pretty much anything else text-based that I want to keep and refer back to, because it's really easy to search for emails. But yeah, that's what I do for dreams. So, why do they matter? I've talked about how, I've talked about what, I've talked about a dream, and how, and why is what we need to talk about now. So, dreams. I did talk about why a little bit, in the sense of, yes, they're memories, you should keep them. Why do you want to keep your memories? Not all of them are good, sure. And yes, they're entertaining, sure. But part of it is it gives you a new perspective on the real waking world when you consider your dream world. Dreams are not always, but often influenced by our environment. So, if you are, for example, back when I was in middle school, I used to play a lot of League of Legends. I'd get home from school every day, I'd play EVE Online, or I'd play League of Legends, and it got to a point where, I get home, do my homework, I eat dinner, and I play League of Legends till I went to bed. Not the best thing to do, but middle school me didn't really realize that. Or maybe I did. I think I did realize that, I just had nothing better to do, that I wanted to do. Anyway, I started dreaming about League of Legends. I can remember explicitly one dream where I was playing as a character called Kha'Zix, and I was going around a jungle on the map and playing the game in my dream. Like, I was gaming in my sleep. And the reason, I remember that because I wrote it down, but my dream showed me something indicative of reality, of, like, it was a clear reflection of what I had been spending my waking life doing. So in that sense, it's a little bit introspective. It's like, well, you're dreaming often about what you spend time with. So last night's dream probably isn't a good indication of that, except for the stock market part. Like, I have been looking at a ton of videos about mineral extraction, specifically with lithium and other metals like magnesium. And I've been trading stock for the last couple months, pretty intently, checking it, maybe every day, my shares. So in that sense, the aspect of my dream towards the end was very reflective of reality. And it's now brought to mind of, like, oh, okay, so that's what I'm thinking about. Maybe if I don't want to dream about stocks and war, maybe I should go do something else with my time. that's one way. But with the zombie aspect of it, it's like, what am I anxious about? What am I afraid of? What am I worried will happen? You know? Am I worried my brother will die? Am I worried of a zombie apocalypse? Am I worried I have to pseudo-kill someone? Like, that's not something I want to think about. But maybe it is something I have been thinking about and didn't realize it. And I'm not trying to get too in my head with that. It's just more so like, is there something underlying there, you know? And you get that with dreams, because they go all the way to the underlying. The underlying thing will show up in a dream. So that's kind of why they're a reflection of reality. That's part of it. They're entertaining. I mentioned that earlier, but some dreams are just fun, or really, really enjoyable and sweet. Maybe I'll tell I'll tell a sweet dream. I got two that come to mind, and I'm trying to think of which one to tell. There's one that I tell a lot more often than others, so it's a lot more ingrained in my memory. So I think I'm going to tell this one. And normally, I have this written up, I can go read this out loud to you, but I've told it so many times that I can just tell it as a story from my own memory without writing, which is kind of the goal. It's a memory. Anyway, so here's the dream. So I'm on the sidewalk with my friend. I believe I'm with my friend Ryan. Damn it. I'm not gonna say his last name. My friend Ryan, and we were walking down the sidewalk, and we see this girl, who is sorry, there's someone trying to merge in front of me. We see this girl who looks like she's surrounded by 2 or 3 dudes who are trying to kind of, I don't know, they're being sleazy, we'll put it that way. And they don't look like good company, and they don't look like they're wanted company. So me and Ryan's a big dude, and I'm I'll stand up for people. We go over, and we're heading towards her, because we're oh, maybe we'll go rescue her from this situation. And no, she ends up beating up all the dudes. She is a total beast. She is a badass. And she is absolutely going nuts. Pardon my language, if you have kids listening to this. But she is absolutely destroying these guys. She's beating them up. And so, I mean, we're still heading over there. It's not like we're going to turn around as soon as we see her start fighting. We'll go to help a bit, but it seems like the guys needed more help than she did. So we get to talk to her. We go up to her after they've run off, and we're are you okay type stuff. And we're both equally impressed and astounded. Come to find out, she was an MMA fighter. She did fights. And if you looked at her, her clothes at the time would definitely tell you, oh yeah, she's a fighter. But she, how to put it, she was ripped. She looked more Latin American, or not necessarily American, but she was of Latino build. Black hair and a ponytail, brown eyes. She wore a lot of black clothing, and she had I remember wrist warmers, which you just don't see on people that often. But I remember she had wrist warmers on, probably because of the gloves or I guess if you're MMA, you're not gloves. I don't know. But she was dressed like that, and she beat up these guys. And she tells us, my friend Ryan and I, she tells us that she has a show coming up, and if we want to see more, we should go to that. And I'm like, sure, why not? It's right around the corner. So we, at this point, Ryan had something to do, so he couldn't go, but I could. So I go to the show, to the arena, wherever it was being held, and the arena itself looked just like Xfinity, the Xfinity Center from UMD's campus. It has very sunken in stadium seating, with just huge vertical rows of chairs all up and down. And it was packed. Like there was tons of people there, and there was more than just her. Like there were other fighters competing there, and excuse me. I remember I got there and I was trying to get a ticket, and the tickets were expensive. I think they were like $34 or something, and I was like, I was stressing out about it. And then my friend Jacob, who I grew up with, happened to be walking in, and he said he got tickets for like $18 or something. And so I ended up, I just paid him $18 and sat with him and his dad. And we sat on the third row from the front. And I remember that because we had to walk all the way down the steps to get down to the third row because it's a big stadium. And there was a fight going on beforehand before we sat down. I think he had popcorn, and we're ready. Like, we're ready to watch it. And so this girl, she shows up. She's ready to fight, and she's in the middle of the arena. I guess is it a rink? I don't know. Boxing rink. I guess that's a rink technically. It's not an octagon. It was like a square. And she gets into the middle of it. She's dressed up. She has her mouth guard in, and like she's hyping up the crowd. And she's going nuts, and we're all excited. And then her opponent shows up, and it's this guy. He's bald, and he has like monk robes on. He looks almost like Gandhi, but he wore like Tibetan monk type stuff. And he shows up, and he gets into the square, the rink with her. And, I'm like, oh, this MMA fighter girl's about to fight like a Tibetan monk or something. Like, this could be interesting, And then the guy from under his white flowing monk robes just pulls out like a Glock and shoots her. And I was like, what? Caught me way off guard, just shoots her. I was like, what? And this is all a dream, by the way. This is still a dream. No one actually harmed in the making of this dream. And it just caught me way off guard. And no one was reacting. Like, she got shot in the abdomen. I remember. It wasn't like a headshot or anything. I can't remember if she was shot 3 times or 4 times. But she got shot in the abdomen a bunch. And there's some paramedics that come onto the square, and they like put her on a stretcher and carry her off. But no one's really reacting like this was weird. Like, no one in the crowd is like, oh my gosh, someone just got shot. They're like, just cheering, like this is some normal thing that happens. And the monk guy just kind of casually like holds up his arms like he's the winner. And I'm like, what the heck? So I'm freaking out. So I end up talking, like I rushed to where they were taking her out. And at that point, they already had her load her up. But I talked to one of the paramedics, and I'm like, where are you taking her? And they tell me the hospital. So I call up Ryan, and I tell him what happened, right? I tell him this girl, got shot. And I probably should have mentioned earlier, when she was telling us about her show before in the first scene, it wasn't like she just said, oh, go check out my show. It's like we were actually talking for a while. Like, the 3 of us have been talking for like 15 minutes or something, like having normal conversation. And then she told us about the show. So we actually got to know her a bit that day. And I was like, oh man, this girl is awesome, And I call up Ryan, and I'm like, hey, our new friend just got shot, and here's the hospital. You want to meet me there? And he's like, yeah, sure. So we both head over there. But I get there first. And I'm thinking, like, the whole way over there, I'm like, I kind of like this girl. Like, she's strong, and she looks awesome. She's in good health, and she totally, like, talked to us for 15 minutes, which sounds lame, but talked to us for a while, and even invited us to her show. Like, she liked us so much. And so I was like, okay, I kind of like this girl a little bit, maybe. I'll tell Ryan this at some point, but I get there to the hospital, right? and she is bandaged up. For some reason, they, like, bandage almost all of her body, like you see in the stereotypical someone's laid up. Like, she has one eye exposed and the rest of her head is covered. Maybe she, like, hit her head when she fell from being shot. And she has all sorts of bandages around her waist, but she's still in her MMA garb, just under, like, in a hospital bed, wrapped up. And, you know, she's conscious, and they took the bullets out of her, and, you know, like, this is but a flesh wound type stuff. But she was putting on a tough act, even though she had just gotten shot, and I could tell she was in a lot of pain, and it was like, she didn't need to be tough in that moment. And I don't know, it kind of melted my heart a bit of like, oh, she has nothing to prove per se, because she's awesome already, but like, she's doing this for my sake, so I wouldn't worry about her. But I did, of course. And so, I don't know, that made me like her more and more. This dream, by the way, is like 4 years old, so don't freak out about it. This one is like a long time ago. But yeah, so she's in her hospital bed, and you know, I start talking to her, and Ryan does eventually show up, and we're like consoling her, you know, like basically just what happened, and are you going to be okay? And she's like, yeah, and you know, and then we kind of like chuckled and made, I can't remember if it was at that point or if it was on a separate, like I made a separate visit to the hospital to bring her flowers or something. But there were like plans to hang out in the future made, and to basically care for her best we could in her injury. And I woke up shortly after that. And so it's like I woke up with so many feelings and emotions. I woke up with a sense of like caring, like as a caretaker, but also as like a friend, but also there was romantic ties in there, and also like I was hyped up because I just watched a fight that was awesome, and she was awesome, and my best friend was there, so there was a sense of camaraderie, and like I woke up with all these positive feelings that melted into the cauldron of my mind and heart because of the dream, and because I remembered it, and because I wrote it down and can now retell it. And like I still retelling it, like these feelings are bubbling back up from the cauldron of my mind and my heart. Like it's, I don't know why I used that metaphor, but it's like important to me that I remember this dream and I can tell it. I'm writing a book right now, and I have been for years. I'll probably finish it by the time I'm 25 is kind of the goal. First 25 years of my life recorded. It's not a book about me, but I'm in it. It's true stories. It's called The Storyteller. It's a book that is a collection of true stories and uses indirect characterization in the best way possible to tell the story of a life. And while I am one of the main characters, because it's from my perspective for the most part, I pull in all these extra details from people I've talked to and shared memories and all sorts of stuff. And I talk about things that I didn't experience directly, and I build this holistic picture of a life through storytelling. Storytelling is super important. I have a podcast on that, I think, too. Or if I don't, it's because I was recording it and scrapped it, but I'm pretty sure I do, on storytelling. The most effective way to communicate something. And that's what dreams are. Dreams are storytelling. They are stories. They are something that has happened to you or someone you know that hasn't really happened. They're kind of fantastical. And I-95 North closed at exit 67. Use MD 43 East to US 40 East. I-95 closed. So does that mean this exit is closed? Oh no, you know what it means? It means, oh geez. That's what happened. Okay. Sorry, I'm driving. I just got up to that sign that was 3/4 of a mile away. Now it's above me. And, Yeah, it looks like they closed the entire highway down up ahead, and now they're saying use this one exit that I was going to use anyway to get off. So they're funneling all of 95 traffic down into the highway that my parents' house is off of, which is interesting. And I hope that it's closed for good reason and there wasn't like a water main break or something dumb like that. Or I really hope there wasn't an accident or something that would close it down. That would be tragic. But anyway, that's storytelling. And dreams are stories to tell. And that is The Storyteller, the book that I'm writing. So hopefully the podcast has been a taste of the format with the stories I tell. But there will be a lot more in it. And no promises I finish it by the time I'm 25. That's kind of a loose goal for me. I knew I'd finish it after college. I still have to compile it and continue writing. Right now I'm in a section about talking the stories of my ex-girlfriends, and that's kind of like one I don't like to write as much. But it is part of my life, and they are part of my lives that have shaped me in great ways. So there's stories to be had, and I will tell them. Anyways, that's dreams. That's dreams and why they're important. I'm still not home, but I think I will end it here so I don't do like what I did with the MMO one, where I just talked incessantly and came up with stuff that I wasn't prepared for. And while I can do that, there's not really much more to say about dreams, except have them. You get them during REM sleep, write them down, remember them, lucid, change them, control them, chain them together, tell people about them, let them affect you, or don't. This will give you control over your nightmares, and this will give you control over the happy ones too. You'll get to hold on to something sweet and let go of something painful, or end it prematurely sometimes. Like, if I have a nightmare and I'm lucid, I often will end it. I know earlier I said I've been caught in it before, but those are few and far between. Like, because I lucid dream, I can end nightmares. I can either wake up directly or turn the nightmare into satire. That's actually my more effective route. Is I will take whatever is supposed to be super awful and just make it a joke in the dream, and then it's funny when it happens that way. And then I wake up with like a sense of like, oh, that should have been awful, but it was really funny. Which is some bathhouse humor, if you remember your high school English class. But yeah, lucid dreaming. There's a lot of benefit to it. It matters for your day-to-day life. You spend about a third of your life asleep. So why not remember what you're doing, what you're experiencing, while you spend that third of your life asleep. So that's dreams. That's why they matter. And this is the 25th pep talk, and I hope it was a special one to you, because it was a special one to me. Thanks for listening. Tune into the 26th one, whatever that is on. And I'll catch you on the next one. Have a great Tuesday. A fantastic Tuesday. Bye!